So everything is off of the front end. Having trouble seeing what's what here. Got the frame propped up on the bridge jack. So it's time to put our focus on the rear. Now, next thing I'm going to take off is the rear calipers. And if you recall, we've already taken off the brake line to them as we were dealing with brake lines. So the next thing is that I want to point out is the way these are made, they can be put on either front or rear. I'm sorry, left or right side of the car. The important thing is there's a plug and a bleeder screw. The plug has to be lower than the bleeder screw or you will never get it bled. If you put the plug up here and the bleeder here, you get an air pocket up here, you'll never get rid of it. There is also a bleeder screw in the same spot on the inside. And when you bleed Corvette brakes, you have to bleed the rear inside, then the rear outside. And I don't know if that inside, it must have a plug. Well, we're going around the back anyways to focus on how I'm disconnecting it anyway, so I'll be able to focus in on that. So there's the caliper from the back. And there's two bolts holding it on, and again, there's two that hold the caliper together, the two halves of the caliper. You don't want to be doing the, don't want to disconnect the one that holds the halves together. You want to remove the one that is holding the caliper on, and that is a 5/8. That was pretty tight. Other side loose. Cheaper bar here, get more leverage. Okay, I'm going to shut off the camera while I crawl under the lift to get that. Okay, so I don't know how long I had that recording. I crawled in there while I went and got an extension, actually, to make it easier to take this and off. But one of the things I thought that I need to mention is regarding the plug on this side. On the other side, that's actually where the brake line comes in. So there's no plug on the inside. It's the feed for the brake fluid. One bolt out. And shooting a little bit of brake fluid out of there because I pressed on the caliper. There's the other one. And caliper lifts right off. So I will do that on the other side, and then I'm probably calling it quits for today, because I have to go get a little tool to help take out the shock mounts, and that's going to be the next step. So I'll continue with that tomorrow after I take off this other caliper. So when I went to the right rear wheel, I found something somewhat interesting. This wheel has been worked on before. The reason I can tell is these right here are originally rivets. I have the front rotor is laying right here, and you can see here that's riveted on. The reason they do that is because they actually machined the rotors after they were on the car at the factory. Now, it's great for the factory, but it's not so great for whoever has to maintain it. But let me zoom in here. I made a little mark on the hub and on the rotor so that I know this is the orientation it was on before, because when you take this off, which I already have, it came off easy. When you take that off, there's a shim under here that I've also marked, and maybe I can hold this up to the camera and get better. I've also marked that shim, and whoever worked on it has marked it. It's 42 there, 40 there, 33, 33, 39. So this hub is a little bit out of round, or out of, not round, but flat. And this goes on to make it run true so that it's not wobbling, because that causes the calipers to pump in and out if it's wobbling, and these tend to suck air in if they're not perfectly within 4/1000ths of an inch of runout. So if you ever have to take off a rotor for any reason, it's probably going to be okay if you mark it and put it back in the same orientation and don't change the spindle or that hub. The minute you change that spindle or hub, it changes the dynamics of the thing. And in order to get it right, you have to put a shim there. Or, alternatively, if you can find a place where they can machine the rotor while it's on the car, well, that works too, because that ends up being true. But that's an interesting find. That was the only one on this car that has had work on it. So none of the others have been, the rivets haven't been drilled out. So I'm probably not going to drill them out. I'm going to leave them the way they are. And that may change my approach to painting those trailing arms, which is this thing right here, which connects from this bolt, and you probably can't see it because it looks just like the frame, but there's a bolt here that goes through, holds the trailing arm on, and on the 74, the rotors had been drilled out. So I did take them apart, but I marked them so that I knew that I was putting them on in the same orientation. In other words, the same studs went through the same holes all the way around. And as long as you do that, you're okay.